Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to start a new paper. I almost said video. I'm going to start a new video too. New paper, paper 29, the Universe Power Directors. And I'm going to warn y'all ahead of time, this paper is very, very difficult to understand. So I'm going to do it the best I can. And the trouble being that they don't really know how far to tell us anything on this paper. They're kind of limited at what they'll reveal to us. There's probably reason for that. So let's say a little prayer and we will get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for this group of people that meets twice each week to come and get enlightened a little bit and listen to my ranting and raving sometimes. Thank you for the ability for us to do this online nowadays and for it to go out to the universe and those that watch us on Facebook and YouTube and Vimeo and all the other different places. And we thank you for allowing us to share it with our friends and family and relatives and open our hearts and minds that we might remember a little bit of it for ourselves too. We thank you for your son, Michael, the local universe mother spirit. And we say this in his name, in her name, and in your son's Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
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 Okay, and there is somebody with another iPad. No, that is Rodney.
Oh, Rodney.
Yeah.
Hi, Rodney.
Hey. Hey, Rodney. Gary's trying to figure out how to get his camera come up on his iPad. I don't know if you can help him or not, Rodney. But
go to settings.
We could see you.
can't see Gary. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Gary.
Yeah.
Now we can't see that.
Yeah, we can see Rodney.
See, you'd
What?
much rather see Rodney than me. Feelings are hurt.
Okay. Well, like I said before everybody get here, this is a very, very difficult paper. I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my ability. But there are certain things about it that you probably, if you're starting to read the paper, you won't understand. I'm going to warn you about that ahead of time because some of these concepts in this paper are high, if nothing else. First, let me start out to say, when scientists try to discover the source of the beginning of the universe, this is the source of the beginning of the universe. It comes from the universal father, or the postulated I am that I am. But he does this through the seven master spirits of the seven super universes. And they manipulate all things through beings that originate, the head of them originates in paradise. And much originates from what's called the unqualified absolute. So everything out in space, primordial matter, that which is out there, you don't know what it is, and in what places people call empty space and all these other things are actually full of energy, which is manipulated by paradise master force organizers. And the being that starts this off is called the unqualified absolute. I don't know what that was. Okay, and
It's called what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The unqualified absolute. Okay, the unqualified absolute's one of the seven absolutes, including the qualified absolute, which is known as the deity absolute, the universal absolute, which we consider the glue that keeps everything together, all the other absolutes, and the unqualified absolute. The reason I'm going into this in such great detail is this is the source of all reality as we know it. And that's the problem with just explaining this paper, okay? The source of all reality as we know it comes from the energy systems of paradise and the universes. Okay. And these energy systems come through the 7 master spirits for us and the 7 super universes. And these 3 things at the very first one of these paragraphs, the primary eventuated master force organizer, the associated transcendental master force organizers, and the universe power directors all come from paradise. And they all have to do with the unqualified absolute starting up everything. Okay. Now, what's so difficult about this is this. They are only going to tell us much about the third group here, the universe power directors. Okay. And all the beings that are underneath them. Okay. So let's start on this first paragraph. And Diane, if you'll take that first paragraph, we'll explain it.
Paper 29, the universe power directors. Of all the universe personalities concerned in the regulation of interplanetary and inter-universe affairs, the power directors and their associates have been the least understood on Urantia. While your races have long known of the existence of angels and similar orders of celestial beings, little information concerning the controllers and regulators of the physical domain has ever been imparted, excuse me. Even now, I am permitted fully to disclose only the last of the following 3 groups of living beings having to do with force control and energy regulation in the master universe.
There you go. So these 3 beings have to do with energy, force control, and energy regulation. What does that mean? That means all things in reality are controlled by the energy systems. That includes gravity, that includes everything that makes all the universes function. Okay. All the way down to the finest atoms and ultimatons that go around atoms. Everything from the beginning of time to now is regulated by these 3 groups of beings. Okay. So when you think of an atom, what you always wonder, what makes the atoms go, what makes the positive and the negative molecules, go around atoms? Where all this stuff come from? What controls it? What creates gravity? What controls anti-gravity? Well, here it is in this very first paragraph. Okay. So everything that moves, everything that has energy in all the universes, the master universe, the seven super universes, the outer space levels, everything that God controls is controlled by these beings. Make sense? So if you're looking for, as a great, brilliant scientist, if you're looking for a first cause, right? Where do you look? This is it. Okay. This is the first cause. This is the way that God the Father moves reality. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Everybody's still with me. I'm less than anybody yet.
No, it's excellent description. I follow you. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So they tell us in the very first paragraph here that the regulation of interplanetary affairs and inter-universe affairs and the power directors themselves and all their group of associates, and we're talking about billions of beings, okay? Underneath them are the least understood of all the beings that they tell about in this book, okay? That's what the first sentence is about, all right? And while we've known about angels and other orders of celestial beings, the domain of the power regulators and the circuit controllers and all this thing had never been imparted to anyone until when? The Urantia book. Okay. So nobody ever knew anything about this. So till 1955, when this book was published, the public didn't know anything about it. And really in 1934, when the book started to be revealed, only the people that went to 583 in Chicago of the original Urantia Foundation that could read and listen to these books, that's when it really came into existence as a concept. Okay, so since 1934, we've been imparted some information on these beings, but very little. Okay, so that's what the point I want to make. Okay, and they've only told us about the last three groups of beings having to do with force control and energy regulation. And so what's that telling us? That means there probably are hundreds, if not thousands, of other groups that they are not allowed to reveal to us. Now, why do you think that is? Because we're talking about the secrets of the universe. Okay? The other beings they're talking about, if you had the knowledge of this, you probably would be able to manipulate and control energy and matter in such a way that you would have an unfair advantage of all other beings and civilizations around you. You follow me? So they're very limited of what they're going to tell us. Okay, this may be why the book was not revealed till 1955, because they knew Hitler was coming into power and they didn't want Hitler and the communists to get control of this information. You follow me? It all comes together. It all makes sense.
Are you
Okay?
saying God was on our side, Dan?
No, God was on the universe's side, not our side. Okay. In other words, the celestial beings foresaw what was fixing to happen during World War I, World War II, and they did not want to impart any information that would give these beings that were propagating evil an unfair advantage. And you see how that worked out during World War II. Hitler became very close to developing the nuclear warheads, right? I mean, near the end of the war, he was almost there, right? So if he would have gotten control of the nuclear warheads during 1945, he would have started wiping out not only all of Europe, but most of the United States, right? So there's reasons behind everything. There's foresight, foreknowledge, things like that, that we're not privy to, that the angels and some of the celestial beings are, that is not put out there for specific reasons. And it's like, there's things you don't know, but you don't have the right to know. You follow me? It's in your best interest not to know. Okay? So just because not, yeah.
Sorry to interfere.
No, that's okay.
Because it seems that most groupings are
Yes.
grouped into 7 groups.
Right.
There's probably 4 other groups.
Higher
They're not-
above these that, yeah, that are not revealed. That's
And then
probably
also
true.
in the comment, had Jesus revealed this information, it would have done no good.
No, nobody could understand it. Yeah, yeah. They thought he was nuts.
Humans on this planet, we reached the stage where the nuclear stage,
Yeah,
it was a good time to reveal this because we're apt to understand it.
that's right. More apt to understand it than before. Right, yeah. Now, remember, as we go into, now, what you'll notice in this next paragraph, they have, they break down 4 more other categories, but these are not, these are under the categories and under the power directors, okay? So I want to make that clear. These aren't the extension of the 3 that's above it. These are actually part of the group above. You follow me? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next paragraph. Pam, would you take the next paragraph?
Though I deem it impossible,
Mm-hmm.
Though I deem it impossible to portray the individuality of the various groups of directors, centers, and controllers of universe power, I hope to be able to explain something about the domain of their activities. They are a unique group of living beings having to do with the intelligent regulation of energy throughout the grand universe. Including the supreme directors, they embrace the following major divisions.
Go ahead and read the 4 divisions too.
1, the 7 supreme power directors. 2, the supreme power centers. 3, the master physical controllers. And 4, the Urantia power supervisors.
Okay. So what they broke down in those 4 are the 7 spiritual and semi-spiritual beings that take care of everything from paradise all the way down to the Urantia level, right? Now, the finite level is included in that also, but those are included in these 4 divisions, okay? Because the finite is just the starting out point of everything, right? Okay. The other thing I want to point out is these are, when they say unique group of living beings having to do with regulation, these are beings that have free will too. They're not automatic beings. In other words, they just don't function and not have any choice in what they do and just go like automatons that go on. Now, when we get down near the end of this paper, there are 4 groups that are that way, that don't have free will. They function automatically, okay? But all these groups have free will. They're personalities. They have personality just like we do, okay? All right. And let's go on to the next one. It's going to keep breaking this stuff down.
Roger, does it ever say that a finaliter can maybe move to one of those positions?
No, there would be no case in all of history or the future where a finaliter or a mortal would step into one of these types of positions.
Okay.
Because these beings are created specifically for these jobs. Okay.
Interesting.
And some of them are eventuated and some of them are created. Okay, all the upper levels are eventuated. In other words, as they were needed, they appeared. And that was done by probably God the Father or the Trinity, and definitely through the infinite spirit for sure. Okay, most of these groups of beings below a certain level are all created by the 7 master spirits. And we're going to learn that as we go. Okay, but when they are created by the 7 master spirit, they are done. It is done in conjunction with the infinite spirit. Now, why is that? Because the infinite spirit controls everything physical. Okay, all the circuits, everything comes out of the infinite spirit. Okay, so without the infinite spirit, which is part of the Trinity, without the infinite spirit, none of this would exist that does exist. You follow me? Because she or he was the prime creator in all of this. Most of the personalities of these beings came directly from the infinite spirit, not God the Father. Okay? So when you think of power directors, power controllers, master physical controllers, or Urantia power supervisors, you're thinking of beings that are basically given personality through the infinite spirit. Okay?
Do they have free will, Roger?
They have free will. That's right. But they will never rebel. Why is that? Because they're created by a perfect being to start out with, which is the infinite spirit, right? So they would have no reason to logically think through a way or a reason to rebel against their own essence or creators, right? Be going against everything they are, really.
So what you're saying, Roger, is Biden is not responsible for the price of gas. They are.
No, I wouldn't go that far. Some things you can't take the blame for, somebody else. Okay, we'll leave that one alone. Okay. Let's see here. So the next paragraph, Letch, I believe you're up next. Supreme Power Directors.
Okay. The Supreme Power Directors and Centers have existed from the near times of eternity. And as far as we know, no more beings of these orders have been created. The 7 Supreme Directors were personalized by the 7 Master Spirits, and then they collaborated with their parents in the production of more than 10 billion associates. Before the days of the Power Directors, the energy circuits of space outside of the central universe were under the intelligent supervision of the Master Force Organizers of Paradise.
Okay, so let's kind of break this down. When you understand what they're talking about here, it makes a little more sense, okay? They're talking about 2 different beings in this first paragraph, the Power Directors and the Centers. You see that? And you could miss this if you didn't know there was a difference between the 2. The Power Directors are like the head, right? The Centers are the result of the head, okay? And the centers they're talking about are part of the production by the 7 Master Spirits of more than 10 billion associates. So we can assume from that there's more than 10 billion centers. You follow me? But there are only 7 of the Supreme Power Directors. You still with me?
Yeah.
All right.
7 for 1 for every super universe.
1 for every super universe, and 1 for each one of the Master Spirits. Now let's go down to one picture here, and it shows here that we have the 7 Master Spirits, 1 for each of the 7 super universes, right? And then we have the Supreme Power Directors, 1 for each of the 7 super universes. Now, the thing that I want to make sure is clear before we get off this paragraph, before we get off this paragraph is the fact that before these Supreme Power Directors were created by the Master Spirits and given personality, all the circuits of the outer space level and the area of the 7 super universe was under the supervision of the Master Force Organizers of Paradise. And why is that? Because it's the Master Force Organizers of Paradise that come into play by the unqualified absolute. When the unqualified absolute takes the area of space and starts to develop it, he calls in or creates the Master Force Organizer to manipulate the matter. You with me? Okay. All right. So we know that everything that went on before the creation of the Power Directors of the Master Spirits had to be controlled by the unqualified absolute and the Master Force Organizers. All right. Then after the creation of the Master Spirits and the Master Force Organizers, then you had the startup of the 7 super universes. You see this picture? It's got the 21 satellites around Paradise. It's got the 7 rings of Havona, the gravity space, the dark gravity bodies, and then the 7 super universes surrounding that. And you can see on each one of these is a what? Master Spirit, right? You can see Master Spirit number 7. That is our super universe, right? All right. Okay. We're moving right along. Jane, would you take the next one?
Okay. Having knowledge about material creatures, you have at least You have at least a What's that? Contrastive?
Contrastive, yeah, concept.
Never heard that word before.
Well, it's like
Contrastive.
you have a concept of spiritual being to compare it to something else.
Okay.
Contrastive concept.
Conception of
Right.
spiritual beings. But it is very difficult for the mortal mind to envisage the power directors. In this scheme of ascendant progression to a higher levels of existence, you have nothing directly to do with either the supreme directors or the power centers. On certain rare occasions, you will have dealings with the physical controllers, and you will work freely with the supervisors of Morontia power upon reaching the mentioned worlds. These Morontia power supervisors function so exclusively in the Morontia regime of the local creations that it is deemed best to narrate their activities in the section dealing with the local universe.
Reason being is they're talking about the mansion worlds there. Okay. And that's why the discussion of the Morontia power supervisors is reserved for the Morontia world. But I'm going to give you a little heads up on this, because what they're talking about here is we don't deal with these other higher level power centers and power beings because we have no reason to have direct contact with them. But when we get on the mansion worlds, as we move from mansion world to mansion world, our physical being, our Morontia body, has to be tweaked from world to world. And that's the case all the way up to the local universe headquarters, right? So the reason we will have interaction with the Morontia power supervisors is because it is the Morontia power supervisors that will make these changes to our physical Morontia body to get us ready for the next type of existence, from one planet to another or one level to another. So these Morontia power supervisors will keep tweaking our bodies on a higher and higher level, or quote, quote, dimension, as we ascend higher and higher. So by the time you get through the seventh mansion world and you go on the local system headquarters, Jerusalem, you will be tweaked 7 times. You follow me? So your bodies will be different than when you started out as the first level Morontia being. Okay, so that's why you will deal with those beings as you progress. Make sense?
Mhm.
Any questions about that? Go on. All right. Rodney, would you take the next one? The supreme power, the 7 supreme power directors.
Yes. The 7 supreme power directors are the physical energy regulators of the grand universe. Their creation by the 7 master spirits is the first recorded instance of the
Derivation.
derivation of semi-material progeny from true spirit ancestry. When the 7 master spirits create individually, they bring forth highly spiritual personalities on the angelic order. When they create collectively, they sometimes produce these high types of semi-material beings. But even these quasi-physical beings would be invisible to the short-range vision of Urantia mortals.
So these beings that are created are a semi-physical being to help manipulate energy and matter, basically, or for instance, gravity beings and things like that, and they have to have a physical form. So we think of them more of a semi-material being than the regular material beings. They're more on a spiritual level than just a material being. So even though they are true spirits and from true spirit and ancestry, Okay, so they bring on billions of these beings of different orders to help control the physical existence of everything. Okay, part of the beings help keep the molecules of the worlds going, right, on that particular dimension. Okay, Gary, would you take the next one?
The Supreme Power Directors are 7 in number, and they are identical in appearance and function. One cannot be distinguished from another except by the Master Spirit with whom each is in immediate association, and to whom each is in complete functional subservice. Each of the
Subservience. In other words, they're servient to that one Master Spirit. Okay.
Each of the Master Spirits is thus in eternal union with one of their collective offspring. The same director is always in associate with the same spirit, and their working partnership results in a unique association of physical and spiritual energies of a semi-physical being and a spirit personality.
Okay, so we've talked about the differences in the Master Spirits, right? How each one of them is unique, and because of the influence of whether they reflect more God the Father, God the Son, or God the Spirit, or the different combinations thereof, right? And so these Supreme Power Directors work in the same way in which that their heads, for instance, if it was the Supreme Power Director number 1 for Master Spirit number 1, he will always reflect the essence of that Master Spirit. He will never go to Master Spirit number 2 or Master Spirit number 3. He'll always go back to Master Spirit number 1 because they're connected permanently. Okay, so each one is unique and different, but they all look exactly the same. All right. And they all have the same function, right? In controlling energy, matter, and dimensions. All right. Diane, would you take the next one, please?
7 Supreme Power Directors are stationed on peripheral paradise, where their slowly circulating presences indicate the whereabouts of the force focal headquarters of the Master Spirits. These power directors function singly in the power energy regulation of the super universes, but collectively in the administration of the central creation. They operate from paradise, but maintain themselves as effective power centers in all divisions of the grand universe.
Okay.
Roger, you're muted.
Okay, let's look at this picture. You see how all 7 of the Master Spirits are located on the world of the infinite spirit that goes around paradise. Okay, that's the 3rd circuit. So the Master Spirit is stationed on this world, but the power centers themselves, okay, are located on the periphery of paradise. And so that Master Spirit, for instance, if it's Master Spirit number 4, he may be stationed on the periphery of paradise. And as Master Spirit world number 4 goes around paradise, that being is always in contact with Master Spirit number 4 going around paradise. So these lines are crossed constantly. But the reason they're on paradise is it's the source of all energy and matter and direction, gravity, and everything else emanating from paradise itself. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at this picture, if there's 7 of them, one would be stationed somewhere on the edge of paradise all the way around it. And each one of those 7 are connected to one of these Master Spirit worlds. Okay, even though they're located on paradise. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the energy circuit. All
It's
right.
like a spoke on a wheel.
Like a spoke on a wheel. That's right. That goes round and round and round. Right. All right. Pam, would you take the next one, please?
These mighty beings are the physical ancestors of the vast host of the power centers, and through them, of the physical controllers scattered throughout the seven super universes. Such subordinate physical control organisms are basically uniform, identical except for the differential toning of each super universe core. In order to change in super universe service, they would nearly have to return to paradise for retoning. Physical creation is fundamentally uniform in administration.
Okay. This is an interesting statement here, but that if they wanted to use one of the physical controllers from one super universe to another, then they have to return to paradise for what? Retoning.
Retoning.
Just as if we move from mansion world number 1 to 2, we have to be what? Retoned for mansion world number 2, right? Because it's a different existence. You follow me? Now you can see how this all kind of comes together. But all the physical control organisms, all the physical controllers are all identical in all 7 super universes. Okay, so even though the master spirit controllers are slightly different, the physical controllers are actually not. Okay, they're uniform. Yeah, Jane.
Roger, is that because all the material from paradise, which is the source of all that exists, energy, is that because it's all the same coming out of there?
That's exactly right, Jane. That's exactly right. Everything, the source of everything comes from paradise. So all those physical controllers will be tuned to the same exact thing, right? The only reason they would have to go back to paradise for retoning is to pick up any differences between the master physical controllers of each of the master, super universe.
Yes.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. Yes.
All right. So that's why it says here the physical creation is fundamentally uniform in administration in all the universes.
And patterns.
Yeah, that's true. Right. All right. The supreme power centers. Lech, would you take the next one and the list of things underneath it, the 7 things?
The 7 supreme power directors are not able individually to reproduce themselves, but collectively and in association with the 7 master spirits, they can and do reproduce, create other beings like themselves, such as the origin of the supreme power centers of the grand universe, who function in the following 7 groups. Number 1, supreme center supervisors. Number 2, Avona centers. Number 3, super universe centers. Number 4, local universe centers. Number 5, constellation centers. And number 6, system centers. And number 7, unclassified centers.
All right. Notice here in this grouping that it starts from the top and works all the way down to the bottom. But once you get to the system level, there's not a individual planet center. You see that? At all. They call the 7th one unclassified centers, and probably these unclassified centers are able to be used in multiple center locations. Okay. Now, it should be understood that these centers are like supervisors, right? And that's why the 7 supreme power directors and the master spirits come together to create these for each one of these levels starting at the supreme ones for paradise, the next level, the Havona ones, and then the next level, the super universe ones, and then the local universe, the constellation, and the systems. So these really are, if you think about it, power center supervisors in a sense, right? And then under them are billions of other beings that help do the work. All right. All right. This kind of explains a little bit more about that. All right. Jamie, would you take the next one?
Okay, these power centers, together with the supreme power directors, are beings of high will, freedom, and action. They are all endowed with third source personality and disclose unquestioned volitional capacity of a high order. These directing centers of the universe power system are the possessors of exquisite intelligence endowment. They are the intellect of the power system of the grand universe and the secret of the technique of the mind control of all the vast network of the far-flung functions of the master physical controllers and the Morontia power supervisors.
Okay, you could spend a week on this. You really could. But let me try to break it down in as succinctly as I possibly can. All right. These power centers, all right, on multiple levels, are all endowed with, it says here, high will, freedom, and action. What does that mean? And it also says their unquestioned volitional capacity. What does volitional mean?
Free will.
We
Free
will.
will. That's right. They all have very high free will, and they're endowed with a third source personality, which is what? The infinite spirit endows their personality, right? So these beings are created as perfect beings as they possibly can. They all have free will. They all have, they're all of a high order, and they would never go astray, right? That's basically what they're saying here, all right? They're highly intelligent, and they all have a technique here they talk about of mind control. What in the heck are they talking about? The mind control of they're talking about is the mind circuit of the infinite spirit. Okay.
Wow.
So if you think about it, when they talk about the cosmic mind and the seven adjutants and everything having to do with mind, it's these power centers that control all of this. You with me?
Yes.
So they would
So-
be
Pardon me?
they would be controlling God even in the thought process?
No, they control the mind circuit of the infinite spirit. That's why they call it mind control. They control all mind and all the super universes, all the way down to the individual will creatures. We're all connected to the mind circuit and the cosmic mind, right? After we leave here. And it's these beings that control this circuit and control where these thoughts and actions of mind go. So let me give you an example of that. Remember when we talked about Dr. Greer and the UFO thing? Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
And he says he's communicating with aliens through the mind. Remember that?
Yes.
Mhm.
This is how he would do it, because it's the power centers that control this mind circuit. And so for Dr. Greer's group to be able to communicate with these beings in alien spacecraft, they would have to do it through the mind circuit, and it would be the power centers who would monitor this and allow this to happen or not happen. You with me?
Yes.
Take it one step further. If you have the ability, foresight, or if you have the ability, the only thing I can think of is what's called somnibulant waking suggestion. Y'all know what that is? It's hypnosis, type of hypnosis. So a type of hypnosis and somnibulant waking suggestion, you project your mind or your thought to travel, to be able to communicate outside yourself to other countries, planets, beings, whatever. You can also control things like pain, your own human body. Any of these things that happen are done through what you would call somnibulant waking suggestion, because it's a type of hypnosis of your own mind being able to communicate outside yourself. And the only way that would be possible is through the mind circuit. And guess who controls the mind circuit? The power centers. Follow me? See how it all comes together? There's a reason for everything. So if you tried to control another human being's mind through your mind, okay, these power centers could cut that off in a heartbeat, right? Because they are the controllers of this. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's why this stuff is important. The more we learn, the more responsibility we have to take, right? And
Right.
taking that responsibility, we have to control our own actions. You can't go out willy-nilly around trying to control somebody else's mind or make them do something that they're not normally going to do, and all this other stuff that even our federal government, the Chinese, our federal government, and Russia have been trying to do for years. Okay, it's a fact. So, you know, there are limitations of matter, and this is the power centers are the limitations of matter. You follow me?
Mhm.
God, y'all are so smart. Makes me so jealous. All right. So let's look at this little paragraph. I mean, this little picture. All right. It says here at the bottom, these power centers, together with the supreme power directors, are beings of high free will and action. They're endowed with third source personality and disclose unquestionable volitional capacity of a high order. So all of these beings, all right, this is the 7 Havona centers. See that at the top? The 7 super universe centers, the supreme 7 super universe, supervisor centers, the local universe power centers, and the constellation centers. And down at the bottom here is the system centers, and they have the unclassified, which they don't tell us anything about. All these centers are all part of the same process and the same thing. You with me? Just on different levels of the universe. Okay. Whew. Let's go on to number 1 here. Rodney, would you take that one?
Yes. Supreme Center supervisors. These 7 coordinates and associates of the Supreme Power Directors are the regulators of the master energy circuits of the grand universe. Each center supervisor is headquartered on one of the special worlds of the 7 supreme executives. And they work
Okay. I'm sorry.
in close association with these coordinators of general universe affairs.
Okay. Okay. So you notice at 7 says the master energy circuits of the grand universe. You see that? That not only includes the mind circuit, that includes what? The spiritual circuit of the sun. It probably includes part of the Father's personality circuit, but not all. Some parts of the Father's personality circuit are off limits to anyone except God the Father himself. Okay. But all the other major circuits, including the gravity circuit of what? Paradise. You with me?
Mhm.
Which is part of all the physical matter of all 7 super universes. So these supreme center supervisors are the regulators of all these circuits included in this, and they all work in conjunction with one of the 7 supreme executives, and they work as the supreme power directors, right? So if we look at this next picture, we can see we have the 7 supreme center supervisors, and then you have the supreme power directors, right? Which all report back to whom? One of
Master
the 7
spirit.
master spirits,
Spirit.
right? Guess who they do that through? The 7 supreme executives, right? As part of the administration. Makes sense?
Also, yeah, all created by the infinite spirit.
All created by the infinite spirit, right? All right. And
Busy, busy, busy.
it's a busy, busy universe, right? You know, so when people say, you know, what's the source of the universe? What controls
my-
all of it?
Oh, how can you say?
You see it all now, don't you? I mean, you know where it all comes from. It's all from God the Father, but he has
Bestowed, yeah.
organized all this, and he delegates all these things to these beings, right? Doesn't do anything he can delegate out for himself, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. Well, we're doing pretty good tonight. Let's go on to the next one. Gary, I think you're up next.
The Supreme Power Directors and the Supreme Center Supervisors function both as individuals and conjointly with regard to all cosmic phenomena below the levels of gravity energy. When acting in liaison, these 14 beings are to universe power what the 7
Supreme executives.
seven supreme executives are to general universe affairs, and what the 7 master spirits are to the cosmic mind.
See how it's all interrelated? It's all connected, right?
Yeah.
Through the executives of the universe. Okay.
Roger, can you go back there for a minute?
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't quite get, let's see, it says cosmic phenomena below the levels of gravity energy. I thought there was gravity energy everywhere.
There is gravity energy everywhere, but gravity energy itself is a circuit, but it's also self-contained. Okay. It's
So it's
self-contained.
paradise?
It's paradise. That's exactly right. It's one of
Okay.
the few circuits that is inescapable from paradise. If paradise collapsed, the whole universe, the whole ball game is over. It all collapses, right? Because all gravity originates in paradise.
That's such a profound, phenomena.
Yeah.
Too big,
it is.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of, paradise to me, this is a very low intelligence human mind speaking here. Keep that in mind. Like,
Yeah.
but I kind of imagine this magnet of so powerful. It's a contradiction to say magnet, because in one way everything is coming out of it, in
Yeah.
another way everything is attracted to it.
That's exactly right. It is too. That's a perfect explanation. You know, gravity emits from upper paradise, and it comes back through lower paradise. Did I just get that backwards, too? I don't remember. Well, it comes out of one and goes back in the other.
To the other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all these high intelligent, these what we're reading about now, they're doing it, like he's given them the responsibility to
And the
manage
power. Yeah.
and the
yeah,
power to manage all that.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Somebody has
immense.
to keep it in check. You know, it's so
Yeah.
funny because when you look at the picture of the master universe, and you see the dark gravity bodies, the two rings of the dark gravity bodies
Right.
that surround Havana, right? Part of their function is to monitor and augment paradise gravity, okay? Because if it wasn't for those dark gravity bodies, the pull of paradise would be so immense that all the planets would collapse into Havana and then into paradise.
Wow.
You follow me?
Yeah.
You know,
Perfect
this,
tension. It creates perfect tension there, perfect
Perfect
balance.
tension. Right, right. Yeah. What were you going to say, Gary?
this kind of proves and disproves the Big Bang Theory.
The Big Bang Theory is garbage. Let me
Yes.
put it that way. Sorry, all you scientists. I've said it many times, but the Big Bang Theory is false. The Big Bang Theory is they think that everything's expanding constantly because of universe respiration. There's a 2 billion cycle. The planets all go outward for 2 billion years or 1 billion years, and then they come back for the same amount of time. So it's like they call it respiration because it goes in and out and in and out. You follow me? So right now we're in an expiration period, and we will be for 1 billion years.
So they'll
Okay.
think of this
So they
explosion.
think there was a big bang because of all this. All right. And they listen to all these scientists that's come before them that speculated all this, and they've accepted it as law, and it's not. Okay. I'm not trying to make everybody sound like they're stupid, but you have to think for yourself. Just because some scientist says this is this, it's not necessarily this. It's just like Einstein's theory of relativity. There's an issue with Einstein's theory of relativity, which Einstein didn't develop, his wife did. Okay, did y'all know that? That Einstein's wife developed the theory of relativity, and he got the credit for it. Okay, it's because of the period of time they were living in. But there's a basic problem with Einstein's theory of relativity, and the scientists have no guts to say, listen, there's a problem with this, but we can't figure it out. Okay, that's the truth. All right. And I'm just a stupid old guy that's teaching the book. And I know that there's a problem. I've known there was a problem with it before I read the book. Okay. So it is what it is. Okay. But the point is this: when you hang your hat on someone else's work, that's a human, or someone else's research, and you don't prove that yourself, you're hanging your hat on the wrong hook, and it's going to fall sooner or later. Okay, that's just the way it is, as according to Roger Paul, stupid little doctor. I don't know.
I would be interested in knowing what's wrong with Dr. Einstein's theory of relativity, but I don't think now is the time.
No, it's, they try to explain it to us a little bit in the book, but it's above most of us, just like some of the other concepts in the book. If they had their mathematicians of the universe came and explain it to us, you know what we'd be doing? Well, we all be sitting around going,
Oh,
what? I don't understand. And on that, I think I'll quit for tonight since it's 6:58. Okay, so that's my preaching for tonight, and I think I'll quit on my preaching for tonight, and we'll take up the Havana Centers next time. Sound like a plan? Okay, well, let's say a little prayer. Let me stop the share here. We'll say a little prayer, and then we'll quit for tonight and take this up again next time. Letch, would you like to close us in a prayer tonight?
Okay. This is a prayer I say often every day.
That's
It's a
fine.
prayer of
That'd be
St.
good.
Francis
All
of
right.
Assisi.
All right.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I seek to be consoled rather than to console, to be loved as to love, to be understood as to understand. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
It says it
Thank you all from
Thank
home that
you.
listen to us. And y'all don't go anywhere. I want to tell you a little secret tonight before we leave. Let me stop the video live from Facebook here. And let me stop the other video. And you can stop yours too.